They say money makes the world go round, but they never explain who spins it, or why the same hands have controlled it for centuries. Tonight, you enter a world built on shadows, a financial architecture stitched together with secrecy, and a truth buried under centuries of silence. What you're about to hear wasn't meant for the public, because once you understand it, the system loses power, and the architects lose control. Let's start with a symbol hidden in plain sight. The old banking seal, found on a 500-year-old manuscript. A serpent swallowing its tail. A loop of endless debt. Historians dismissed it as decoration, but internal memos recently leaked suggest otherwise. It represents a financial cycle designed to enslave nations. The deeper we dig, the more the pattern repeats. Wars, collapses, recoveries, all engineered like chapters in a script written by people who never appear on camera. People who don't run countries, they run the money that runs countries. But where did it begin? To find the truth, we travel back to a forgotten vault in Venice, a vault sealed after a fire nobody ever explained. Inside the ruins, archivists recovered half-burned ledgers, ledger pages listing transactions with symbols, not names, circles, triangles, crossed lines, codes of early shadow bankers. Those symbols match identical markings found in Switzerland and again in London. On documents centuries apart, different nations, different eras, same code, meaning the network never died. It only evolved quietly. One page stands out, a notation called the Exchange of Silence, a deal that bound kings to private lenders forever. It stated, "Debt shall be their leash. Gold shall be the collar." Written in 1498. But the logic still rules today. If you think modern governments control their own money, the documents tell a different story. They borrow from the same lineage of lenders. The names change. The families change. But the power stays untouched. Here's where it gets darker. A sealed folder labeled Aurelia Protocol. Archivists were warned not to open it. When one did, he found maps showing where collapses would occur, years before they happened. 192, 193, 1931, all marked in red ink. How could someone forecast disasters decades ahead? Unless they weren't forecasts, they were plans, and every plan had the same goal. Transfer wealth upward, silently, efficiently, permanently. Now, we jump to the 1800s when railroads were booming and fortunes rising. But someone ensured the boom would break. One banker wrote, "When the crowd buys, we sell. When the crowd sells, we buy." A principle that still directs elite money. They call it market psychology. But in their letters, Teika did crowd harvesting. A chilling phrase meant to convert panic into profit. Then something even stranger. Financial rituals performed every solstice to bless new contracts. Were they symbolic or something more? We can't say, because every witness vanished from the records. But the biggest clue came from an encrypted pamphlet. It described a coming age of paper chains, where currency disconnects from reality. Sound familiar? Today's money is mostly code, controlled by servers owned by unseen entities. If you think cash gives you freedom, remember tease they can erase digital money with a keystroke. Another document described the ideal citizen: earn to survive, spend to forget, work to remain blind. A manual for financial obedience. It hits Warsaw, buried at the bottom of a private collection. A list of cities marked for economic trial runs. Every city experienced sudden inflation, sudden unemployment, sudden collapse. Patterns this precise don't occur naturally. Someone orchestrated them. Someone monitored the results, and the same signatures appear across all memos. 3 initials, always the same handwriting. Experts tried identifying the handwriting. No matching global archives. Whoever wrote it wanted no trace. But we found a clue. A photograph from 1911. 3 men standing outside a bank with no name. Their faces blurred. Their identities erased. But one wore a ring with the same serpent symbol. The ring reappears in a 1972 newspaper photos on the hand of an advisor during a currency reform. Impossible. Unless the ring was passed between those who guard the system. Guard the secrets. Guard the illusion. So what exactly is the illusion? That money is scarce. That debt is natural. That collapse is accidental. When in reality, scarcity is manufactured. Debt is engineered. Collapse is profitable. But you're not supposed to question this. Schools don't teach it. News doesn't cover it. Because the moment people understand the game, the commands and the architects lose control. A shocking letter from 1834 reads, "Control the currency, and the people kneel willingly. Not by force, but by design. Everything is structured to make you comply. Loans, mortgages, inflation, all quiet tools that shape your choices. Your limits, your future." One note describes citizens as assets with breath, a term too cold to be accidental. Another document, give them freedom in law, but not in wallet, a chilling blueprint for economic containment. Have you ever wondered why every crisis ends the same? The rich, richer. The poor, poorer. The middle, shrinking. Because crisis isn't a glitch. It's a ladder. And only the top can climb it. A banker from 1902 wrote, "People must fear losing what they earn. Fear keeps them working harder. For less." Here's the part that disturbed investigators most. A section titled Intervention Points. Specific dates when adjustments would be made. Interest rate shocks. Currency reevaluations. Debt cycles reset on schedule. Almost like seasons. Predictable. Intentional. Then tucked inside an envelope, a metal plate with engraved numbers. Coordinates. Those coordinates pointed to an abandoned monastery. Inside, a chamber lined with locked safes, each with a crest identical to the serpent ring. Authorities sealed the site. No explanation provided. Files classified instantly. So we asked, why hide a monastery full of financial records? What were they protecting? A historian whispered one line. It's not money they fear losing. It's control. That was enough to silence him. One safe contained a letter titled Directive of Shadows. It stated, "A crisis every 70 years. Maintains order. Check the timeline. Much S. Almost perfectly. Coincidence or choreography." The directive also warned of a future event, a global equalizer. A financial reset disguised as innovation, digital currency, market consolidation, debt forgiveness with hidden strings. What strings? Ownership transfer, tracking power, absolute oversight. Teikaidit, the final leash. A system where every transaction is visible, except terse. If you think that sounds impossible, look at today's trends. Everything is moving toward transparency for you, and secrecy for them. The last page of the directive shows a triangle, 3 circles, a small crown. Researchers linked the symbols to a secret council, older than modern banking, older than most nations, a council that advised empires quietly. A council untouched by wars, a council that still meets every decade. Entry requires lineage, not wealth. Lineage, meaning it's not a conspiracy of rich people. It's a dynasty. They operate through institutions you trust. But the true orders don't appear on paper. They transfer through whispers and blood. If the public sees our hand, the spell breaks. Spell, not system, because financial power is psychological first, mathematical second, real only because you believe in it. The council understands this perfectly. Fear drives obedience. Confidence drives collapse, so they control fear with crises, with inflation, with uncertainty, and they control confidence with propaganda, with experts, with distraction. But here's the twist. A new leak shows they miscalculated something big. The digital age created cracks in their secrecy. Files leaked, systems hacked, documents exposed. For the first time in centuries, their invisibility is weakening, their rituals losing potency. Because the more people know, the harder it becomes to maintain illusions. And illusions are their true empire. One internal report states, exposure is the only threat. Not revolution, not rebellion. Exposure. You might wonder why release this information now. Because someone on the inside is scared. Scared of a system spiraling too far. Scared the reset will backfire. Scared the leash might snap. They left a voice note saying, if the world sees the pattern dies. So they leaked everything. The maps, the directives, the symbols. Pieces that only make sense when you combine them, like you're doing now. Every collapse, every boom, every panic, all part of a cycle they perfected. And the serpent symbol is not decoration. It's the blueprint, a system feeding on itself, endlessly, until someone breaks the loop. That break begins with awareness, with knowing the truth was buried, but not destroyed. The documents warn, when the loop breaks, systems fall. Maybe that's why they fear exposure so much, because if enough people understand the mechanism, the illusion dissolves and power drains from their hands. And that's why this video is dangerous. Not because it reveals names, but because it reveals patterns. Patterns they spent centuries hiding. Patterns that should have died with the old world, but somehow survived into the new. So ask yourself, if they engineered the past, what are they planning now? The final memo we found says, the next shift will happen in silence. No crashes, no warnings, just change. A quiet replacement of systems. A new financial order masked as convenience. A leash disguised as freedom. And if you dare to question it, so this is your warning. The buried truth is rising. And the only thing more dangerous than seeing the system is pretending it isn't there.